my name is Lindy Shirries, and I used to be a Sangoma. In this channel, I talk about everything, guys. Abokorobela, the secrets that we were taught not to share with you guys, how we used to trick you guys, the spirits, how everything works when you go to a Sangoma for consultation, yamatambo. So whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, please check out this channel so we can talk about it. If you believe in God, let's share the gospel. If you don't believe in God, you can check out the channel too. I want to hear your opinion, and I want people to actually share their opinion, not insulting me without saying why. Thank you, and I'll see you on my channel.
That's right. You will make sure you go and subscribe right now at follow her and subscribe on her channel. That is the truth, Lindy, the truth rather. Let me put it out there. Actually, I actually have it here. Yeah, I hope I'm correct. The truth with Lindy Shirries. Make sure you go in there right now and subscribe. Let's get her number of subscription up. Importantly, there are certain truths. If you are from West Africa and you understand the whole concept about witch doctors, that's what the Sangoma is. But she's going to tell us about it herself, And if you're from Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Lesotho, or you live in Canada, North America, or in Europe, the invasion and the importance of Sangoma in our culture, in our countries today, is becoming very, very, is growing rapidly. We've seen a lot of celebrities, a lot of young people begin to go and get initiated to be Sangomas, or to go and consult with Sangomas when they have a problem, right? So instead of running to Jesus, they run to a Sangoma. They might even be Christians. A lot of them are, they will tell you they are Christians, but they go to Sangomas or they become Sangomas. So what's the confusion there? Because you cannot serve two masters. You need to choose one. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, and also, I think there's a lot of pastors and prophets that are actually Sangomas. They are Sangomas. They are not representing Jesus anymore. They are bringing a spirit that is not of God, a foul spirit that is not of God. They bring it to the pulpit. But you and I, because we see them on TV or because we see them putting on a tie and they're quoting the scriptures, we think that's the spirit of God that they are anointed when we see them do all their magic or miracles. We need to be careful. But Lindy is here and she's going to help us share with us. So help me welcome Lindy Shirries, who is based here in Johannesburg. Thank you so much for joining me, Lindy.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Do you mind moving
just
to your right?
Myself then.
You need to move to your right a little bit. No, yeah, yes. Just so when we have the split screen, we're gonna sit right in the middle. So, okay. I don't know you that much, so there's no way I can really introduce you in a way that people would get to understand who I'm talking to. And as we build up and have this conversation, but who is Lindy? First, before we even get to the place where I would ask you why you decided to be a Sangoma. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. All right. I am a child of God, thanks God. And I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm also a developer for one of the major banks in South Africa. And I'm also now a YouTuber. And I also do crypto sometimes. So I do a lot, but the most important mission for me is just to share the gospel. So I can say out of all my titles, the most important one that I want people to know is that I want to share the gospel and make sure that I do my work before I leave this earth.
That's very important. We all have a mission. Before we even get to a place where sharing the gospel became very important for you, you went through quite a lot. When did you decide you want to be a Sangoma, a witch doctor? Well, was it an experience? Some people said, they are called, their ancestors called them, right? To be a Sangoma. When did you decide to I'm sure you do a training and all that kind of stuff. When did you decide
Yeah.
to follow that path?
Okay, so for me, I didn't decide, but there was a point where I had to choose and actually say it with my mouth. I think it's when you enter into a covenant. But then just another background that I missed. My dad is from Mozambique and my mom's South African. So I started getting sick when I was 5 years old. And I had sores all over my body and I wasn't eating. The more they took me to the doctors, I got worse. And then with my dad, he was so relaxed. Since my mom, she was from a family where they went to church, but they weren't that serious with God. And then my dad said, no, this is something that happens in Mozambique. And if she's behaving like this, it means she has a calling. But then I don't want to say anything. Let's just take her to a Sangoma, and then a Sangoma will confirm. So back home in Mozambique, my grandfather, my aunts, almost all my aunts as well, they are all Sangomas. So I'm from that family where they do not want to hear anything about God. They say actually the Bible came with white people to a point where my dad even passed on. He never believed in God. And then I started getting sick and my mom didn't know what to do. But then my dad said, no, do take her to the doctors, but then you'll see it will only get worse. And it did get worse. And then my mom eventually decided, no, let's just take her to a Sangoma. When we went to that Sangoma, the Sangoma said, I had a name. And that name is called Tela. It's one of the great grandmothers in the family who used to be a Sangoma. And she wants to come in my life and I must go and become a Sangoma. But then my dad said...
So your great-great-grandmother wants to come
into my body and take over so I can become a Sangoma. That's the understanding that we had then. And since we didn't go to church and didn't know about God, the only thing we just knew few scriptures there and there because I would go to church while young with the lady where we used to stay. So I knew a bit, but not like deep when it comes to God. So my dad said, okay, we need to appease these ancestors because we cannot let her go to initiation school while she's 5 years old. Back home in Mozambique, that can happen, but here she needs to go to school. And then there was a ritual that was done where they slaughtered a goat and bought these materials that they use and bits, and then saying, okay, she does accept the calling, but then give her a chance to go to school so that she can study.
How old were you then when you did that?
I was five. And I remember they had to ask me specifically, do you accept the calling? Because it had to come from my mouth.
But as a 5-year-old, you didn't know much.
I was sick. I didn't even care. Anything that was a solution for me, I just said yes. And then from there, I went to school. I went through high school. And then I started preparing to go to university. I remember the day when I got my matric results, I started getting sick again. So for us, it was normal. We go back to the Sangoma and ask why. And then they said, oh, now she's finished with school. And then my dad said, no, she's not done. She needs to go to university. And then we had to do the ritual again to beg the ancestors to let me go to university. Wow. And then I went. Life there was difficult for me because at some point I would try to study and then all I would see while studying, it's like small snakes in the book. And then I'll have to go back home and say it's happening again. And then my dad will have to go and do some sort of ritual for me to continue. And then I finished my university. Then I was scared because I knew there was nothing we could say for me to stop being a Sangoma, because I didn't want to be a Sangoma at all. And then I remember even crying to my dad saying, Dad, you are old. Why don't you take this calling and just go be a Sangoma and then let me live my life? I do not want to be a Sangoma. And then my dad said, there's no way to transfer this. You have to do it on your own. And then from there, I even started, I started working, then I got paid, and then I started looking for solutions to stop this calling. And then 2 things that I knew could stop the calling, and I was advised that I should go to the church called ZCC.
Oh,
And that
okay.
church, they were able to stop their calling. And then around that time, my friend whose parents used to go to that church, they actually arranged for me to go with them to Limpopo, to their villages, in order to stop their calling. And then
Yes.
when I got there, very early in the morning, the parents woke up and then they had to speak to their ancestors. Then I was so confused, thinking, okay, I know you cannot mix God with the ancestors. Why are these people actually calling the ancestors and then at the same time have their Bible saying they are a church? So from there, I knew that that solution wasn't going to work because they were using both ancestors as well as the Bible. And then I came back, I started having recurring car accidents. Relationships didn't last. Like I would have a relationship and then a guy would promise me that they're marrying me, even set the date, but closer to that, everything would just disappear. And the guy would say, I no longer want to. And then eventually I started having this feeling of going underwater. So I would drive. There's a road here in South Africa where when you drive in Olifantsfontein, there's a dam on the right-hand side. So I would drive, and every time I drove past there, I would feel like I need to stop my car and go jump and stay inside. What, like I felt like I would breathe properly. I wasn't breathing properly with the air that we're getting. If I go underwater, I'll start having that. I'll start breathing okay. And then I would go to work, and then when I got back home, I'll tell my dad, this is the feeling that I'm having. Every time I drive past any type of water, I wish I can just jump. And then my dad said something like that used to happen in Mozambique, where people would just go underwater and people will come back and say they now sangomas. And then my dad said, no, I do not trust that because I saw people who said they went underwater to become sangomas, but then I do not trust that. I do not want to take any risk. You rather go to a person where I can see and where you can come back. I do not trust this. And then I kept on delaying, thinking maybe another solution will come. Eventually, I started having almost every day, I would wake up on my bed pedestal, I'll see snakes, beads, and all these material from sangomas. And then I would tell my dad, and then my dad said, there's no time. We need to take you to a sangoma for you to start with your initiation. And I said, no, I'm not going there voluntarily. I have to be sick or something must happen for me to go there. And then one day, I woke up in the middle of the night, wanting to jump our fence at home. Lucky enough, my room was outside and my dad's bedroom was opposite my room. And then he heard the noise and then he asked me, what are you doing? Then I said, I'm going to the bridge. So home is Ivory Park 2. There's a bridge somewhere where there's water. Okay. So I wanted to run and go to that bridge so that I can catch water somewhere there, so that I can go live underwards. And then my dad said, tomorrow you're not going to work. I am taking you to a sangoma. And at that time, I wasn't even aware of what I was doing. I just wanted to go and live underwater. Yeah. And then my dad said, I'm taking you to a sangoma because next time I won't be around and you'll end up going underwater. And I don't trust that. And then we started preparing, going to initiation school. We went and found this other woman. So it wasn't like other people.
How old were you then?
The person who ran to that house.
Yeah.
I think I was around 24 because I kept on delaying all these car accidents, recurring car accidents where a car will be destroyed, but then I will come out okay. So I knew it's those things, but I didn't know about God. I didn't know about prayer. And every time I think about it now, thinking that the solution was just so easy. All I needed to do was just to pray and ask God to help me. But then I didn't know any of those things, especially about God and the word. And then we went and then I started preparing myself. And then the arrangement was I would wake up early around 3:30 and they would hit the drums and then I'll do all the dancing and everything that they do there. And then around 7, then I'll go to work. So around that time, even my hair, they put that red thing that they put, and then I had beads everywhere. And then even the sheep skin on my hand. So it wasn't nice even going to work. And that time I was working for TransUnion, the one in Woodmead. So I would go there every day and just lucky enough, I had Christian friends, but those friends, they kept on saying, Lindy, you can pray, but I didn't believe. And they didn't like maybe alienate me and separate me. They still remain my friends. Even today, they still my friends. So they kept on supporting me and saying, it will be fine, because I didn't like going to work looking like that. And then having to leave work and go back to that house where I was doing this initiation, it wasn't nice at all. And the worst part, other sangomas there, they used to say the educated one. So it wasn't nice for me. Worse, I didn't even have the rhythm to dance whenever they dance. So everyone could dance properly, but with me, I couldn't even dance. So even the community would laugh at me, because after work, we'll have to do the dancing again. And I didn't even know how to dance. So it wasn't nice for me. And then 6 months into this whole initiation, my mom passed away. And they said to me, you're not allowed to go home to bury your mom. If you go home, then you have to start all over again.
Really? And how long was it supposed to? How long was
there's
it?
no way.
How long was the process? How long was the whole initiation process before you graduate?
So for me, I think it can take even 2 months if they focus on teaching you whatever they want to teach you. But then it's not like that. They focus you become a slave. You do all the things that they want to do. You just become a slave. You cook, you clean, you do all these things. And at the same time, they keep shouting, maybe like waking up in the morning, cleaning, cooking before you go to work. Pardon?
What turns you into a slave? What are some of the things that you do there that is not okay?
Okay, I didn't hear that. I think
I said, what turns you into a slave?
Okay, some of the things. So slave meaning that you will cook, you do all the chores in the house, you do their watching, the kids there will stop doing anything that they used to do before. All the all the Sangoma training will do the cleaning and everything to do with that house. You'll take care of it. So if you need to go buy, maybe go to the mall, they'll send you, you'll have to walk and go there. So some of those things, those are the things that they used to do. And lucky enough for me, my aunt, she's the one who actually trained this lady. And my aunt used to be one of the biggest sangomas in Mozambique. So they respected her. So it wasn't as hectic compared to other people there. So they would like push and push, but then at the same time, they were scared that I would tell my aunt.
Okay.
So it continued, and then I decided not, even if it means I have to start all over again, I'm going to bury my mom. Because my dad was left alone. My brothers, they were all living in their houses. And so I felt, let me just go back home and prepare for this funeral and then bury my mom. Even her sickness around that time, she would cry and say she sees the house burning. So it was all demonic and something to do in just Satanism. It wasn't one of those sickness where you know that maybe it's high blood pressure or maybe something. It was just some of these things that you never understand. Like she would cry and wake up in the middle of the night and say, the house is burning, everyone runs. So she was even starting to become crazy. So I don't know if maybe me going there, it was because of that, the spirits, most of these spirits started coming, and then my mom passed away. And then we prepared for a funeral, and then I had to go back. I think 2 days after burying my mom, they said I must go back. Then when I went back, thinking that I'm going to start from scratch, and then the lady said, no, we'll just wash you. You just have to buy a goat, and then we'll use that blood to wash you. Then you can continue. So from there, I continued. I started learning the tricks that they use. And one of the tricks that I learned, which was number one thing that I've learned, that maybe this is not right, they would teach you how to trick someone. So, for example, you would say, Siyavuma, meaning do you agree when a person comes? And then you say, Siyavuma, the person will say, yes, Siyavuma. And then say, I see a person you are a person from a big family. Obviously, all of us, we are from a big family, whether it's this generation or the previous generation. And then you'll have to treat that person by when you keep on saying Siyavum, eventually a person gets to a point where they tell you, and it worked all the time. But sometimes when you throw these bones, something tells you why the person is there. So whenever I talk to people now, especially people who go to Sangomas, I understand why they believe, because there are miracles the spirit actually tells you, but then it's not your grandmother or your relative. It's the spirit from the devil. And
Yes.
obviously, since the spirit are around us, they see what we are doing. They'll obviously come and say to me why you are there. So I'll even say you ate this in the morning, and then I'll be surprised. How did I know that? And then, so those are the miracles that happens there, and you don't know why they happen. You don't know how they happen. But that doesn't happen all the time. It's only maybe 50% of the time where the spirit will tell you. Most of the time, the spirit is not there. You are taught to trick a person. And then, so these are the three things that a person can, either the person is sick, or either a person wants money, or it's something to do with relationship. So whenever you say siyavum, you say you are sick, and then the person will say siyavum, and then you say you have problems with your relationship. That person will say siyavuma, but the tone will be up. And then you follow that, whatever you said, and the tone of that voice was up, you follow that.
Right.
And then when you follow, eventually you get to a point where you just keep quiet and a person will tell you. So that was one thing as well that I picked up, that, okay, this is not right. So it means if the spirit, which is not consistent, it means if it's not there, I'll have to trick people. And I did trick people. It worked all the time. So I landed, and then during graduation, so when they take you home, another thing that they do. So most people believe that they will hide something. So maybe they'll like take maybe a joints from a goat or something and go hide it next door. And then the Sangoma will have to guess where that thing is and go look for it. So that's the biggest test that they do when you go for graduation. So with me, I was scared, thinking, okay, how am I going to find this thing? What if the spirit is not there? And then I'll be embarrassed, because obviously if you don't find whatever they've hidden somewhere, you fail. That's the fail. So while worried, thinking, okay, what am I going to say if the spirit doesn't tell me? 5 minutes before I went out, they came to my room and said, this is the biggest secret you do not share with anyone. We've hidden this and this in your desk jacket on the left-hand side, and we've hidden the second thing at the gate. Your aunt is sitting there in her bag. We've hidden the second thing. So when you go out there, do not disappoint us. Know exactly where you're going to go. Just make sure you run around first as if you're looking, but then at the end up going to your dad on the left-hand side. And they'll even make you repeat on the left-hand side. So when I went out, I already knew where this thing was hidden. And I thought maybe they did that for me. But then I decided, let me just go ask other Sangomas. I asked most Sangomas, they said that's the secret. You do not share with anyone. If you share, you will go crazy. So I've been sharing that secret everywhere, and I am
and you're not crazy.
So that's the thing that they. I'm not crazy.
So how long were you there?
I am not crazy.
In total, how long were you there going through this training and during graduation? And tell us also about some of the leaders. What do you call some of the leaders there? Who is the leader? What's the name of the leader? The title of the leader who's there?
Abokobela.
Okay.
Okay, they call them Abokobela. Abokobela. Okay. So they will teach you things, like they will take you maybe and you go and learn herbs. If someone is sick with this, you use this herb, and then they will teach you your love potion. Like if someone comes and then they want their husband to love them, and then you use this and this and this, and then they will just teach you different things. Some of these things, like some of the herbs, they actually work. That's why I say if someone wants to learn herbs, just go to the villages and ask older people. They will teach you what tree to use for what. You don't need to go to a Sangoma and learn these things. So they will teach you things like that. And then, but another thing, most of the time, usually when you go to this initiation school, the husband or the sons, they tend to rape the trainees. So they will say something like, okay, with me it didn't happen, but then I've seen people who actually got raped, and then they'll say, if you don't sleep with me, you're not going to finish your initiations, you're not going to finish and graduate. So I even back in Mozambique, it was worse, because my aunt, she used to be one of the biggest sangomas. So she would have like 10 or 20 trainees at a time. And some of them, the husband would like sleep with these trainees, and then there's kids everywhere because of this husband. So these are some of the things that happen in initiation school. So yeah.
Wow. So there's quite a lot. So whilst you were there, all the times that you do it, did you ever get sick, or did you sort of like question why there is deception, or you knew about the deception part of going through the initiation school and being a Sangoma before you got in there?
Okay, so before I got in, I didn't know. The only time I knew is when they started teaching about how to draw bones, and if the spirit doesn't tell you, then you'll have to lie to people. But one thing that happened,
just hold on there.
I was sick, and every time I went there.
Explain to us about bones, how to draw bones, because you know a lot of people have different ideas around it, and also we have a lot of viewership of people from across Africa or people overseas. The bone is a very important element of the whole ritual that you go through, or some of the stuff that you do, isn't it? Explain that to us.
Okay, so bones is basically joints from different animals. Like it can be chicken, it can be goats, cows, and sometimes they'll even have maybe skin from snakes, and then they will throw those things in there. So you'll have like a container made of so let's just say you'll have a container with these bones, and then what you do when a person comes, and then you'll make them blow this container, and then you throw these bones. So what they are teaching you is that each and every bone that you throw there actually has a different meaning. Like maybe if this one lands this way, it means the father of the house is not happy. And then when this one, maybe like they'll have a black one, maybe one of the bones will be colored black. If this one points this side, it means there's someone who's bewitching you. Or if this one, it means someone in the family is actually bewitching you. So the main thing that is happening there is they just want to divide, but they are not aware, because they usually say either your neighbor is bewitching you, or your family is bewitching you, or someone at work is bewitching you. But you are taught not to say exactly. You just say, I see a lady who is light in complexion. And then obviously every family do have a lady who is light in complexion. Your mind will automatically go to that person. And then you will say, this person is bewitching you. That's why your things are not working. That's why this and this is happening. And then you'll start hating that person, or even your neighbor. So you are taught to pick someone around in your social or your life, or even at work. And then you will start hating that person. And then it's not even in the landing of these bones. Yes, that's what they teach us, and that's what they spend time on. But then it's not even about the landing of these bones. It is the spirit that is telling you. Because you start saying, Siyavuma, and all you see afterwards is like a picture of that person who comes for consultation. And then you start seeing things, you start saying words that you don't even know why you said those words. You start saying things like, maybe, I see your father is not happy and your father died. Something like that. It's not because the bones landed. I mean, a bone can land in a different way. It can mean so many different things. But then you start saying those things, and only to find out that person came and their parent or someone died. So they will obviously believe. So the reason that people keep believing is because when they go there, some truth of whatever's happening in their life is actually told. But that's the spirit that's telling you to say those things. It's not because of these bones. And that spirit is not there to fix anything in your life. And one thing that I've learned, especially married women, especially for Midrand, because I used to make money from those women, they would come and for korobela for their husbands. And usually it's because the girlfriend is stealing the husband, and then you have to fight the girlfriend. And then after that, you will try and give her something and say, maybe go wash with this, go drink this, and then go back home. And then that husband will sort of like want to come back, but then that doesn't last. It can happen maybe 2 days or 3 days. And then after the situation is even worse, the husband maybe will start beating that lady. So it's never a solution that is permanent. It's never a solution that is permanent. Even if maybe someone says they want a job and then you do something and then by luck or I don't know how it happens, that person gets a job. It usually doesn't last. That's the first question that I asked God, because when I got converted, I was in a church. I just asked God to help me because I knew, because so my father.
Okay, before we get there, your conversion part, let's go through. You've gone through your initiation school. You graduated. How was the sicknesses and the illnesses that you used to affect you? Did it continue? And did you practice as a sangoma? And what were some of your experiences practicing as a sangoma when people come for consultation?
Okay, so the original sicknesses were healed immediately when I went to initiation school. So even when I was 5 years old, when they said I have a name, immediately when I accepted and said it with my mouth, I was healed immediately. But then some of the challenges is when, say, I want to go out with my friends and I don't tell the ancestors, I would get sick wherever we would go with my friends. I remember me and my friends, we planned a holiday to go to Mpumalanga. They had to bring me back because I was so sick. And the reason was I didn't ask the ancestors. Or maybe if I wear pants to work, I would get sick. Or maybe when I come back from work and someone says they want to do consultation, then if I say I'm tired, I would get really sick to a point where I'll have to go and burn. There's a thing called impepa. I'll have to burn that and sit under these material for me to be better. So even when I was very tired, I would never say to a person, I'm tired, I'm not going to do consultation with you, because I knew that I was going to be sick. So those were the sicknesses that would happen. And then some of the things that I would do with my customers, I would go, they would say maybe they want me to clean their house. So I would maybe say they must buy a goat, and then they will slaughter that goat and mix with whatever muti, and then we'll go and splash the water all over their yard, and then they would think their house is strong, no one would enter. And also some of the things that I would do would be go into a trance. So that one is where maybe you go into a family, and then that family says, we want to speak to our father who died. So I would sit and wait for the spirit to take over, like sort of like possess me, go into a trance. And then that father will speak using my mouth. So for example, maybe the father, anything that the father used to do, maybe if he used to do this, I would do the same thing. And then that whole family will be convinced that it is their father, because they are the only ones who know that their father used to do this. So I would say some of these things, but sometimes I would go to this house and the spirit is not there. So I'll have to pretend as if maybe there's a spirit in my body and then start saying things. And obviously, because there's no spirit, I'll start saying things that even that person never used to say. So there was always something like, there was never a time where a person will come and then I'll say, no, everything to do with you is fine. There's nothing, everything is going on. There's always something. If it's not your relationship, it's your money. If it's not your money, you are sick. If it's not that, your neighbor or your family member is bewitching you. So there's always something. You never go to a sangoma and the sangoma says, no, everything is fine. You are 100%. So those are the things that I used to do. And then it got to a point, where this woman from Midrand, I call her the Range Rover woman, she came, and most of the things that I used to give her to get the husband to come back home and stop dating this other girl didn't work. Then I suggested, let's go and see this other sangoma who's a vendor man, because people suggest that he's one of the biggest sangomas to do with love potions and relationship. Then I took that lady to that house, and then she started doing things, and those things were not like us. I would see like bad things. Like she would even say, do you see this one? I slept with her. And then I would ask, why did you sleep with her? And then she would say, no, I needed to put muti this herb in her body. Then I said, but then why do you need to put muti by sleeping with her? It's like, no, it works like that. And then he would even say, with you as well, if you want to be a strong sangoma like me, you'll have to sleep with me. So then I had to cut that relationship. But then I would take women to this man, and I'm not sure if some of these women actually slept with this man. So he would suggest bad things like you're using your menstruation blood and mixing with other things, his muti, and give to your husband to eat, and your husband will start listening to you, you'll start controlling. Because these women, they didn't want a husband who's a man, who's a leader. They just wanted to control. And most of these women is these women who have like boyfriends or husbands who are rich. So they just wanted to control so they can control the money as well. So those are some of the things that used to happen. And I even took some of my friends from work to Mozambique to get korobela, because we were told that if you want love potion, the good one, you have to go to either Zimbabwe, Venda, or Mozambique. And then I arranged and asked someone in Mozambique, and then we went to Mozambique to this other woman as well to get love potion for these guys. And most of those relationships didn't work out. They are now happily married with other husbands, and those relationships didn't work. But the money that we wasted just going to Mozambique trying to find love potion, it was wasted. So there's so many things that happen.
Wow.
And even my brother-in-law, he even said that the way I was changing cars around that time, he even wanted to be a sangoma because he thought I'm making money. Then I said, no, it had nothing to do with the money that I made there. The money that I made, it was because of me being a developer at work. It wasn't the money that I made there. So also as well, it starts becoming a business, because with me, I started saying, I'm going to help people. Even if people don't have money, I will help them. But then when the money started coming, I started charging more, especially with this woman from Midrand. There was a day where I said, okay, 10,000 to do this. And then the following, thinking that she won't come back, the following day she came with that 10,000. Then I was like, people, whenever they are desperate, they will do anything. And at that point, you can control them and they can do anything that you want them to do. So I think that's what I like to share in my YouTube channel. Do not become desperate, because once you are desperate, you will do anything that a sangoma will say.
And make sure you follow Lindy's. You go and subscribe right away. Go to our YouTube channel. It's called The Truth with Lindy Shirries. She shares quite a lot of other insights just around her experiences, as someone who was a sangoma. There's so much that we can learn from it. So please make sure you do that right away. Go to our YouTube channel, The Truth with Lindy Shirries. Go there right now and check it out. In case you're just joining us, I'm talking to Lindy Shirries, who was a former sangoma, and now she met Jesus. We're getting to that place where she would share with us her experiences, why she decided to take a different turn in her life, and also we're going to talk about, maybe you can even tell us some of the pastors that you see now, what you see about them that is very sangoma type thing. But tell us about some of the elements you used to use when you go to a home, like you talked about water. What is that water for? Bones, all these things. So share with us some of the elements that you used to use in your consultation or in some of your rituals.
Okay, so the main one would be maybe a blood from either chicken or goat, and that meat, I used to take that meat back home, and then that would be supper for home. So I'd tell a person that buy a goat or buy chicken, because we're going to use blood from that, and then I would mix with any herb. So it didn't matter what I mixed. I could even take grass and mix. People just want to see something. So I would mix with that. And then there's a place in Joburg where you can buy muti. It's called Joburg. It's called Farane, where you can buy muti. So I would go and buy that and just mix different herbs and then go to that house and make everyone wash with that, with the water, with this blood and muti. And then after, I would even cut them, because I even have those cuts. I'm not sure if they will show. I even have most of these cuts in my body. So I would cut them with the razor blade and then put muti, so a mixture of these herbs, and then I will put in their body. That will represent that you are now protected, you are now strong. And sometimes those people, I would do that, and then the following day, something bad would happen. So those are some of the things that I would use. And sometimes maybe we would go to a river or a dam, and then I would wash them there. And yes, most of the time, especially for those who kept coming back, I would take them to the river and then we would wash them there. So those are the things that I used
like
to
when you go
use.
to the
I
river
didn't even
wash,
have like many things.
yeah, when you go to the river to wash people, what does that signify? What's the importance of, why do you have to do that?
It simply means that when you wash, your bad luck or your sickness goes with that water to somewhere.
Okay.
So that was the only thing. But to me, I don't even think I believed that much in that. I just wanted it to look like it's important. Let's just go there. Maybe using water in the house, it wasn't enough. So just to make it more, especially for the price to go up, I would say, no, your problem is too serious. Let's go to the river, and then I would take them to that river. Any river, especially the one in Olifantsfontein, I would take them there, and then I would tell them to wash using that water. And then I would say, now your bad luck is gone. Anyone who wants to be with you, now they cannot be with you because you're now protected. And then after, I will cut them. And then I will cut from the father until the younger one. And also, the shocking truth is most of my customers, not most, I think maybe 40% of my customers were people from church.
40% of your customers are
They
people
would
from
come
church.
there. People from
Now
church.
that is interesting. Before we even get there, let's deal with this question from Shumba, who is saying, me, I'm wondering what is amagobongo and what they are mixing in there. What is amagobongo and what is being mixed? You have an idea?
I don't know. No,
okay.
I don't.
Maybe some other sangomas use it. So,
but
right, you said 40% of your customers are people from church. How do you know that? And why do you think they came to you? Live in church.
Okay, some of them I used to go to church when I was youth. Remember, I said I would go to church with this lady where we used to stay. So some of them were from that church, and even fathers, the elders of the church, they would come, and then I'll be so confused and ask, "Why are you here?" And then they would say, "No, even God knows that we need ancestors to speak for us. So that's why I am here." And even when my aunts come and visit here in South Africa, some of these elders, especially those who had connections with Mozambique, they would come. So,
wow.
And another thing, when my pastor asked me to share the testimony at church, and then after my pastor said, if there's anyone who has these things at home or who goes to sangomas or at home, they do these type of things. And then I think 30% of the church, they actually stood up, and then we had to pray for them.
Pray for them. Wow. Wow. And you are the right person.
And then I also shared the testimony. Yeah. And also I shared a testimony at Godfest in Rosebank. And then most of the people there, I think 50% is white. And then after, most students from UJ, they actually came saying, yes, we come to South Africa or we come to Joburg to attend university. But then when we go back home December, we have to do these rituals. So here we are all holy and going to church and praying. But then when you go back home, you have to do these practices.
You must do it.
So that's why I say some of these people are from church.
So for you,
and the sad part is they are scared to tell the family.
Okay.
They are scared to tell the family because obviously the father will say, I'm not going to pay for you now that you are a Christian.
Yes, they're afraid of doing that because ancestral worship or going to a sangoma, consulting a sangoma is a family tradition. It's a family culture that
Yes.
has been there for generations. So who are you as a young person to want to cut off? You know,
Yeah.
there's always problem around that, and you experience persecution, and that's where you need to stand strong. How did you get to a place where you
Yeah.
said enough is enough being a Sangoma, and how did you meet Jesus, the real Jesus here?
So okay, so my dad then passed away. This is 2 years after graduation. And then I was left alone thinking, okay, how am I going to do all these rituals in Mozambique and here, all these things that my dad used to help me to do? How am I going to do that? Then I started remembering that my boyfriend, who's now my husband, who was the pastor's son, and I had to break up with him because I was now going to be a Sangoma, and they weren't going to allow a bride who's a Sangoma. Then I remembered that he said, actually, I was even scared to talk about God. And I decided, okay, my ex-boyfriend said, whenever I'm scared, I should take the Bible to my room. Then I did that because at that moment I was thinking more about God. And then when I got to my room, I opened the Bible. And then, because I was just sleeping there thinking, what's the point of putting this Bible under my pillow to protect me? Let me just open since I'm not sleeping. And then my eyes landed up on Luke 10, verse 19, where it says, I have given you power to trample over serpents and snakes. Then I said to myself, okay, is this how God talks to people? When people say God talks to them, is this what they mean? Then I said, no, this is a coincidence. Let me just go look for another Bible which has an Old Testament, because it was one of those small ones with the New Testament. Then I went to the garage, found an Old Testament Bible, and then I said, God, if this is you, I'm going to open again. If it's you, then whatever I'm going to read, I will trust this is you. And then I opened it, ended up on Joshua 1, verse 6. That one we said, didn't I tell you not to fear? Be strong, I am with you. From that day, I knew that God was with me. Then I said, God, I know nothing. I'm just going to read this Bible. I'm not going to do anything without you telling me. I started reading the Bible. I started learning about fasting. I started learning about meeting with the believers. I started learning about the spirits, because my main question was, how come some of these people who used to come for consultation used to get helped? And then God reminded me that those people were helped temporarily. They kept coming back. If I was solving a problem, how come those people, they kept coming back? Then I started fasting, but then my fasting was out of fear, because I would go to Esther's fasting, then I would go to Daniel's fasting, and then after I'll go back to Esther's fasting because I was scared. And during that time, I kept seeing snakes. I kept seeing visions in my room. Like I would see shadows. I'll start having those sleeping paralysis. So I was scared at that time. But I kept on reading because they would be there, but then they wouldn't come to me because I believed that this Bible was actually protecting me. Up until one day, I said, those things started happening. Like I saw snakes, and then I said, okay, I'm not sleeping now. These things, they don't even wait for me to sleep. They're scaring me even when I'm awake. And that time, this is the time when I read about Jesus when he fasted for 40 days and the devil came to tempt him. And then he said, man cannot live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from God. And then that time I decided, let me just do the same thing. Then I said, God, according to your word, you said I shouldn't be scared. You'll protect me. And immediately those things started disappearing. Then I knew from that day that every time I quote a scripture, whenever I was scared and started seeing those snakes, I would quote these scriptures. I would quote, even when I didn't remember the scripture, I would quote something that happened, even if it's not related, but any scripture from the Bible, I would just quote that and those things would disappear. But then I wasn't free because I was still scared. So I said to God, okay, I know I'm starting to sound like Gideon, because then I read about Gideon who kept on wanting more signs. Then I said, God, show me another one. Every time when I come back from work and do not go to that room to burn these things, I get sick. And every time I send someone back, I get sick. So tomorrow I'm going to go to work. And then when I come back, I'm not going to do any consultation and I'm not going to go to that room. And then I came back. Usually I would park my car outside and then take off the shoes and go to that room. Then I didn't do that. I walked straight to the house and nothing happened. So I kept on waiting to be sick and I wasn't becoming sick. I said, okay, I'll do it the following day. I wasn't becoming sick. Then I started having more strength and power, started learning about the Holy Spirit, started learning about more. And I remember one day I said, God, okay, you've answered so many questions, but answer this one. How come you say these spirits are not good spirits? I mean, these are my grandmothers and my past relatives. Why are you saying these spirits are not good? And then as I was driving to work, when I opened the laptop at work, a PDF popped out. And then that PDF had so many scriptures and how the devil can actually go into someone's life and how the devil, they can even be a human, they can transform to these things, they can talk, they can lie. And then that day I'm like, okay, so all this time I kept believing that these are my grandmothers and these are my past relatives. And now, God, I'm reading all of these things and it's a long PDF. And then I read everything. I took all the scriptures. I started understanding the fall. I didn't even know about the fall and the devil coming to this world to destroy us.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about that. And then I started learning about these spirits coming, and those are the spirits that are in control and are deceiving us. And then from there, I'm like, okay, no need for me to feel guilt. I started telling my family that I do not want to be a Sangoma now. That one, they didn't accept. The following day, I came back home. There were so many cars, my uncles, my brother, my aunts. And then they were said, okay, we see you have a pastor's boyfriend now. You want to go. Don't let this pastor of yours deceive you. I'm like, no, I don't have a boyfriend. This is the Bible. And this is what God is telling me. I'm not even going to church. I'm reading all of these things from the Bible. And then they said, whatever you do, do not burn anything because you will be sick. And then now growing up, I could see my aunts. Every time they said they didn't want to be sangomas, they would get so sick to a point where they would say, okay, now I'm ready. I want to be a sangoma. So I kept on reading the word. And then I said to them, you know what? You choose what you want, but me, I'm not going to go to that Numa, and I do not want to be a Sangoma anymore. And according to what God is saying here, these spirits are not our relative. And then they were saying, you're not respecting your father, you're not respecting your mother. This is our culture. It's not something that you can stop. Then I said, I'm stopping. And the main reason, I kept thinking about my daughter then, because I thought if I don't stop it, if I don't cut this thing, then it will go to my daughter. Just like it came from my father and then to me. Then I kept thinking about the next generation from me having to go through this. Then I'm like, no, it stops with me. Even if I die, at least it will stop with me. It won't continue. And then I told them that I'm no longer going to be a Sangoma. And then they said, okay, fine. Don't ban those things. Leave those things there. Then Deuteronomy happened where God says they banned these things. Everything needs to be in ashes. And then I was scared. I'm like, God, I'm still scared, but I'm just going to wait for you. And then one day I got invited to a crusade. I think it was Zanele something. A lady was preaching that time. And she was preaching saying, why are you scared? This God control everything. The galaxies, we can't even count the galaxies. And that time I was sitting there thinking, it's as if no one in this church is there. It's just, this is for me. And I kept saying, we have to go back home because I have to go and ban these things. It's time. God has just confirmed I have to go and ban these things. Then I went back home. I slept. And around that time, I forgot to tell you about how I found my church. And then I started reading. Let me just go to there because it connects with me, Benny. I started reading about I need to meet with the believers. I am part of the body. I need to be with the believers so that they can encourage me, so that we can pray together, so that then I'm like, God, lead me to the right church because now I cannot go back to the old church. You have to direct me. So I kept on going to different churches. And there was one specific church where I went. And then when I got there, I don't know if it's because I was praying too much at that time and fasting too much. I saw the pastor. I saw, okay, these ladies, they started this church for money. Then I said to my friend, but why are you bringing me here? don't you see that pastor and these women, these 4 women, they started this church for money. Why don't you see that? And I didn't know that she didn't know. And then she said, how did you know that these 4 women and this pastor, they started this church? Then I'm like, but don't you see? It's obvious. Don't you see? I can see. Why are you bringing me here? And then she said, no, these people, they are the ones who actually started this church. And then I left that church. I went to different churches. And then eventually I found the one where I am going to now. It's called God First. And then the reason why I decided to go to that church, I already read about what the church should be like. It must give to the poor. It must be full of love. It must have elders. It must, all these things that the church must have. So when I went there, and then they did an announcement at the end, they said, and those who want food parcels can go to, and then I knew that was the church. And even now I'm still there. So after that crusade where God told me that, why am I scared? I called the lady who's Mamfundisi from that church. Mamfundisi is the pastor's wife. I called that lady because they actually after that service, when the pastor actually was answering some of my questions, which God didn't answer, because I had a list of questions, and after they did an announcement about the food parcels, they actually invited me to their house. And when I got to their house, they said, okay, tell us about you. And then I said, I'm a Sangoma, expecting them to be shocked, like, Sangoma. They weren't shocked. And then at the same time, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, they're now going to call me and make a show and interview the demon. You know what people do to Sangomas whenever they stop being a Sangoma? They didn't do any of those things. They said, whatever you're doing, keep reading the word. God will direct you. When the time is right, you will stop being a Sangoma. So that day, I kept on calling her. I'm like, it's time. And she started praying with me from 8 o'clock until the following day at 4. She kept on sending scriptures, and I would read and pray. And then around 4 o'clock, I went to that room, took my car, put everything in there, everything, even the curtains. I didn't even want to leave anything. And I didn't want my brother to wake up because he was going to stop me. That's why I didn't wait for 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Then I called my friend, and then we went to some place near Olifanfontein. We bought petrol, and then we started burning those things. And then immediately when we started lighting that matches in order to burn those things, a lightning started. And he was like, yo, what's going on? So these things do exist. Then I said, we quickly ran to the car because it was raining heavy. And then he said, but then can you see these things are banned? And I said, no, that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says we must ban everything until there's nothing. If someone were to pass here and pick one thing, I don't trust that these things won't go with that person. And then we went back, we put more petrol, and then the lightning disappeared. It was sunny, it was around 6 o'clock, and I was free. And then they came again, my uncle, saying, yeah, now that you banned everything, you are going to be sick, you're going to die, no one will marry you, and all these things. So I kept on waiting to be sick, nothing, no sickness. I kept on waiting to lose my job, nothing. Accidents, nothing. I was free from then. I started praying ever since that day. I've been praying and praying. So now with the YouTube channel, I was scared. Like, okay, you go and share these things, and then people will just target you. And I'm one of those softy who cry too much. And I said, no, I'm not doing this. But early this year, God said, you're busy with all these things. And the reason I created you is to be a Sangoma and then share what you've learned there. And you are not sharing that. And then I started thinking, what am I going to say to God when he asked me, what did you do in this life? I mean, I know he didn't create me for all these things, all these things that I'm putting effort, trying to make money. He didn't create for me. He didn't create me for these things. He created me to be a Sangoma and save me so that I can tell people. So ever since, nonstop, I'm recording videos, sharing, and going to different churches, sharing their testimony.
Wow, that's so an incredible story. So please go to our YouTube channel. It's right there. You can see it right there. The Truth with Lindy Shirries. Please go there right now and subscribe right away. Especially if you come from that kind of background, or you want to learn new tools that would be able to help you to reach out to your family members or to your friends who are caught up in this whole, culture and deception of all this Sangoma thing, please make sure you go there right now, The Truth with Lindy Shirries, and make sure that you check it out, and also subscribe and try to follow her also on social media and all that. There's a scripture from Deuteronomy 18 that says, anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes, or a sorcerer or a charmer or a medium or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead, for whoever does these things is an abomination. The key word there is an abomination before God. And just listening to your testimony and your story, there's so much more of that. And again, we've seen so much more of it in church also. We can take, we're 1 hour already, so we need to bring this to a close. I think I'm going to invite you again just to focus on another different area, because there are different areas that we could actually keep talking about. Because the whole thing is just to be able to educate people. But you cannot serve God and believe in these things. It doesn't work that way. And for you, when you became now a Bible-believing Christian, because now you are a Bible-believing Christian. There's a difference when somebody say they are Christian. The next question is, are you a Bible-believing Christian? Because that's what's going to make the difference. When you look back in your life now, how do you think you were able to be manipulated with the spirits, with the things, with getting sick? How do you think the devil, because the person who is behind everything is the devil, not your aunt, not your uncles, not your great-grandmothers, is the devil, evil spirit. How do you think now, with your knowledge of scriptures, how do you think that works? Because there are certain people that are also caught up there, but they cannot jump and serve God totally because they feel this is holding me or this is not going to work. So they want to pick a few from all this ancestral worship or whatever, and then mix it up with Christianity. For you, now that you've been on both sides, how does it work?
Okay, so people usually say we are Africans and we cannot live like white people. That's what they say in my space. So there's a difference. I love being an African person. I love our culture, amalobolo, all these things that happens in our African culture. They're beautiful. I love that. But the problem is when you start talking to a spirit that you do not know. The problem is when you start believing that your father or your past relative who died can't do anything for you. The Bible says when a person dies, they don't have any interaction with this world. So I always use an example that if someone who loves you like my father used to love me, now that he's dead, he cannot do anything. If my father was able to come back and do something for me, by now I'll be rich. I would have all the things that I want, but he cannot do anything for me. And if I dream of my father saying anything, usually I just pray. And usually you would see that when you start praying, that dream, you would see that that father turns into a snake or something and start running away. So you need to live a life where you are prayerful, you read the word. And don't just read the word as a novel. Read it and apply it to your life, because then you will know that even when you sin by mistake, God forgives you. God forgives us. He loves us. So even when you sin, we are not perfect people. Perfection will only come when God comes and take his church. Now we just follow what the Bible says and it will guide you. I say the Bible has all the answers that we need in this world. It's just that it won't say go buy a red car or go buy a green car. But then when you check certain scriptures, it will tell you about how to manage money, about how to plan properly. Like it would even say, how can a man start building without planning? So the Bible will actually guide you in any problem that you have. And another thing, we always think that we're not supposed to suffer. The Bible didn't say we won't suffer. We will suffer in this world. But in that suffering, I always say we still winners because Christ died in the cross for us. So
Right.
whatever suffering you're going through in this world, do not go to your past relatives, to sangomas or to your father, or go to the graves and start speaking to graves. Nothing will happen. The only solution is going straight to God. These spirits will not do anything. They will only deceive you and take your money. And think about it. The Bible also says in Matthew that when one spirit goes, if you pray and one spirit goes, when it comes back and see that the house is empty, there's no word of God, there's no prayer, it brings more spirits. And that will explain why whenever a person says, I do not want to be a sangoma, and not do anything about it and not read the word of God, then these spirits will come back and that person will be at a worse state. So if you are sick out there, because usually they come in a form where a person is sick and you feel like you don't have any hope, you do have hope. Start praying. I wish my mother knew God then, because then she was going to pray. And these spirits, they're scared of prayer. Just prayer. They're scared. They do not want to be in an environment where a person prays. So just pray and read the word. That's the solution. And be consistent. Even when these spirits persist and more bad things happen to you, just keep praying. Those spirits eventually will leave you. So I'm saying now, I believe in God. I believe in the word. Because that same word is the same word that took me from being a sangoma to be where I am. It wasn't a pastor. It wasn't a different church. It wasn't because of deliverance from people interviewing. It wasn't that. It was the Bible. It was scriptures. When the Bible says all scriptures are living and active, sharper than any double, the scriptures become live when you start reading the word. So just keep reading the word. That's the only solution you can have in this world, because the word is from God.
Lindy Shirries, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We can go on and on and on. I don't want to take more than an hour, but I'm definitely going to have you here. I'm going to invite you again to talk again and to talk again and talk again, because we are seeing an explosion of recruitment, you know, of especially young adults, young people who are, that's where they go to when they have an issue in relationship, like you said, spiritually or financially or with their job, they run to a sangoma. Now, with what I heard from you now, that's not the solution. It's a whole deceptive machine that was set up from hell to enslave people, to take away from you, to deceive you. The only answer is found in Jesus. And you have to believe Jesus in his totality. You can't put one leg there and one leg here. It doesn't work that way. You don't tell us it's part of your culture. You know, we're Africans. But you see, going on consulting and being deceived is not part of our culture. Going and talking to the dead, I don't know. Me as an African, that's not part of my culture. Trying to use the spirit of the dead, of our grandparents or great-grandparents, it doesn't work that way. Choose to follow Jesus and Jesus alone. Don't play with that. That's your only hope. Don't follow the trend that people, now it's even trendy to become a sangoma or to go to one consult to a sangoma. They're always on radio stations now. They're big guns. They're just everywhere. It's fashionable. So we have to. That's why
the celebrities, especially those with.
Yes. There's a couple of my friends. I know Masi Chava quite a lot. She went that route. The importance for you is, and I want to say thank you, is keep sharing your story. Your story is very relevant today. Actually, you should write a book. I hope you're writing a book. You know, people need to know and people need to hear. This would help a lot of people, educated people. And we're not talking about uneducated people going to sangomas. We're talking about also educated people that went to universities. And you see what the devil is trying to do is he's trying to make sure he recruits a lot of younger people that will do his work for him,
Yeah.
that would walk in darkness,
Mm.
that he could destroy. The Bible says in John
Yeah.
10:10, he comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. That's the only thing he knows.
Mm.
That's the only thing he knows.
Mm.
So thank you so much, Lindy. I'm gonna make sure that I invite you again, hopefully very soon, just so we can continue
Yes.
this conversation. Please make sure you go follow her. Her YouTube channel is The Truth with Lindy Shirries. There are videos there. She has about 30, 40 videos already. Please go check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Don't just go watch the video. Subscribe, and also you follow her on social media networks. So thank you so much. Any last word from you?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and God bless you. May the Lord continue to keep you. May you continue to be strong. Share your testimony with boldness.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of spiritual
Yeah.
implications and fight to it, but you are a winner.
Yeah.
The Lord will keep you.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you,
thank you so
everybody.
much for having me.
No,
Thank
pleasure,
you.
pleasure. Yeah. Thank you, everyone who joined us, and I really appreciate it, every one of you guys. I'm going to play Lindy's video, actually, just so you could also see our YouTube channel. Well, thank you so much. Keep believing in Jesus. There's no any other way. Don't play. This is not a game. You can't go and look for solution anywhere and everywhere. No, there's only one place you can find solution. That is with Jesus. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.
Hello, my name is Lindy Shirries, and I used to be a Sangoma. In this channel, I talk about everything, guys. Abokorobela, the secrets that we were taught not to share with you guys, how we used to trick you guys, the spirits, how everything works when you go to a Sangoma for consultation, yamatambo. So whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, please check out this channel so we can talk about it. If you believe in God, let's share the gospel. If you don't believe in God, you can check out the channel too. I want to hear your opinion. And I want people to actually share their opinion, not insulting me without saying why. Thank you, and I'll see you on my channel.